We just came here for you to entertain us. That's what it is.
What, me to entertain you? I know, I've done enough entertainment in the last week, I think, sorting stuff out. I think I've done my bit of entertainment. Yeah, my detective skills, shall we say, have been the entertainment. Although I was laughing at being called a rascal. How are you, Bookish? Are you well?
I'm okay. It's 3:41 in the morning here. I'm waiting to see Philadelphia. I don't even know what bloody time it is there either. So
Well, Philadelphia. It's is that a rally or?
yeah,
It, it's the
Um,
Karadansky thing. Yeah, it'll be useful. Although I want to have Karadansky in a space to discuss her book. So I asked Maureen to put in a good word and tell her that I'm reasonably safe. Reasonably. and sensible as a space host. I'm actually really glad people are actually doing their own things as well. Because the more people that go out and do things and don't just rely on like either one person or one organization, and everyone's kind of singing from the same mantra that this has to stop, then the more people say. And it was kind of interesting because I was kind of in another space and getting read the riot act about there are some people who have dysphoria that want to help with the kids too, and I'm like, well, why can't they organise their own stuff? Why is it always down to women that have to organise stuff? Like, the guys need to get together and do their thing. I think the gay men need to get together and do something as well. Hello, Robbie, how are you?
Good morning, Nay. I'm very well. It's lovely to hear from you. How are you doing?
I'm not bad. A bit sleep deprived, but yeah,
Well,
not bad
that's
at
of
all.
that's of your own infliction, so no sympathy.
Well, these people will choose times of nights to create drama and then invite me to spaces, honestly.
Sneaking and creeping in the middle of the night.
Well, when you get a message from Mike going, you need to recruit everyone, I've got something to say to people, I'm hardly going to go, nah, it's alright, I'll continue watching some crap on Netflix.
Oh, really, Mike? My goodness, he invites you to spaces. It's really weird. I
No,
find
so
that strange.
so what happened? What you missed was Mike sent me a message that he was holding in space to out who Lady Laments was, and he had proof. And he asked me to invite all the GCs to come to it, and he literally had a 4 minute space. And then after that, Lady Laments had her own space, which was then recorded. No one had the time to record Mike's space, and then after that, we all kind of discussed it offline. And then I went into another space and Mike joined that because I was telling them one of the reasons they're in breach of certain laws. And then Mike came into that one, but he's completely deactivated his account. He doesn't want anything to do with Twitter.
All right. I don't believe that he's left Twitter. He's just on a different account. I genuinely don't believe it.
I don't really care. Um,
Well,
I
yeah.
actually just want it all to stop. That's it. Just leave us alone. If not, it's going to get pretty ugly and nasty. Cause I've had some reasonably sensible conversations with Mike ages ago, and we agree to disagree, mainly on the treatment of others, because I think most people know that I have a very low tolerance of how people are treated, and what's done. But actually, you can talk to him about certain topics, and he's kind of really dynamic in the way that he thinks. He's quite an intelligent guy. I just don't know why he gets involved in some of the other stuff. He could actually be really, really useful to all of this, if he worked constructively. Um, and even DT, again, thinks differently. Could be constructive, but you can't make people do stuff. Although my favourite part of all of it is the double agent thing. I'm kind of hoping I have that badge. I'm a double agent. I've always wanted to be a double agent, a little spy. Morning, Joe. How are you? Haven't spoken to you in a while.
Well, there's no shortage of things to talk about, is there? I suppose the thing which really needs to be at the top of all our minds at the minute is the appalling failure of the authorities to give justice to Julie Marshall. So I think that's something we'd like to talk about. There is a sort of so I suppose what I want to talk about is what can we do to get Julie's case. I mean, it is in the public discourse, and I have liked the way it's been reported has been a lot better than it would have been even 3 months ago, possibly even 2 months ago, because you see some of the reports in the Herald and the Scotsman and the Times. She's referred to correctly as a feminist campaigner, a women's rights campaigner. We don't any longer get any of this nonsense about anti-trans campaigner. What can we do to get justice for Julie? And the sort of side note, what's going to happen with the Mermaids case?
So, Ari, the Mermaids case, as you know, Joe, it's very hard to give you 100% answer. But as I've said before in Spaces, I do not think that they'll appeal. And I don't think they'll appeal because, firstly, mermaids have enough significant problems of their own. I think the bigger problem here, though, is that I don't think mermaids really are a driving force in the sector anymore. There are far more nefarious small pop-up organisations that are doing the work of mermaids for them. Plus, the NHS have an organisation called, well, it's an outsourced organisation, but it's part NHS funded, called Indigo. So let's not think that, firstly, let's not think that slaying mermaids is a solution. And on Julie Marshall, it's actually really quick and really short, what I would say. Keep tweeting. I mean, you'll laugh, I have a variations on a theme sort of tweet. It always does very well, which is underneath a police force going, hello at police force, and then just asking them questions about it. Because if you just ask them, they'll never answer you, of course. They'll never answer you, of course. But people retweet and they see the fact that the police force are being silent. This is what to do. Keep putting pressure on Police Scotland. They'll never answer you.
Yeah, I kind of agree on tweeting about what happened at Women Won't Waste and just tagging various people in it. Their local MSP for a start, and the police.
They'll never answer you.
And just keep going with it. Put your opinion forward. Whether it's agreed with or not will be a matter of who's in the space and who's talking. Gender, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just an observation that gender ideology and also critical race theory and bits like that, these are all sourced essentially in Marxism. Obviously, in the American debate, Matt Walsh, etc., they are very clear on tying the transgender ideology to Marxism. I think that's less so in Britain. It's much more about women's rights, and we are less. So we make that positive argument in terms of rights that are being diminished, as opposed to critiquing, making the negative argument against the transgender ideology itself.
I just keep thinking of all the work that still needs to be done. Once people actually go, I know what an AGP is, I think you'll find the tide will not turn. I think there'll be a tsunami. And it's actually how to do that without disgusting people, because if you promote too much disgust to people, they'll turn off, they won't want to hear about it.
So many women have been disenfranchised, particularly in Northern Ireland. I don't even have anyone I can vote for here that is pro-woman and pro-choice, apart from the DUP and the UUP, which is, it sticks in my craw. I cannot vote for those two people because they've previously been so homophobic, anti-woman, and I genuinely can't bring myself to vote for either of those two people. I think voting is important, particularly in Northern Ireland, because so many people don't vote. But it's depressing that I don't have not one party out of all of, what is there, 15, that is pro-woman and pro-choice. And that's something I would really like to see in Northern Ireland. That option. Um, Northern Ireland's a very small place. It's very difficult to speak out about this sort of stuff because they're still in this idea that, oh, it's homophobic, or they haven't come round, a lot of them, to the idea that the trans ideology um, is different than trans people.
Thanks for that, Belfast. Sorry, you just cut out there a little bit, Gender.
I was just saying that what's happened is many, particularly gay men, have, through their sense of self-entitlement, their sense of, is it pride, or that, pride in themselves. I mean, that's a concept, isn't it?
Pride was always political. Pride was always about campaigning. When you look at the history of it, it was all about, getting rights, putting a point over, blah, blah, blah. Now it's turned into pretty much a Flossum Festival carnival, and it has nothing to do with politics. It's more to do with, you will adhere to this. Everyone has the right to agree or disagree with things like gay marriage. That doesn't mean to say you don't, people are denied those rights. But I think when you ram things down people's throats, it's like the pronoun police and things like that. No, I'm not going to capitulate to your language. But yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of get your point on the whole pride thing.
Yeah.
I don't. You just don't. It's just you.
So
You may have to come to a compromise in certain areas, but you don't walk
yeah.
over them. And you certainly don't behave like some sort of dictator.
Can I just come in on that?
Yeah, sure.
Because there was a big reason for pride, and you know choosing that concept was clearly the result of a lot of hard work and a lot of pain, um and it really embodied the movement. We're here. That seems to rhyme with queer, but I don't want to say that.
I'm not proud of pride. I'm proud of what was achieved. Sort of a long time ago, and it could have gone in a vastly different direction. Like, you could take the laws that have changed in, I think it's Uganda. Why didn't they have a march on supporting people that were LGBT? It's a very powerful tool, a march, as we've seen all around the world, and we can offer support to other countries. I would be taking a topic like, this is what's happening in Russia, and we should be supportive of people who are gay in Russia. This is what's happening in Uganda. This is what's happening in Iran. You should be having political speeches about that. You should be drawing attention. What can we do to support those individuals in those countries? So yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done.